How often do we consider the materials that make up our renewable energy sources? A question to ponder as we delve into the world of renewable energy sources, or RES. We live in an era where the importance of transitioning to sustainable energy is becoming increasingly evident. Our planet's health is at stake, and the role of renewable energy sources in this global energy transition is paramount. When we talk about renewable energy sources, we're referring to power generated from natural resources like the sun, the wind, and even the tides. These are resources that are constantly replenished and are therefore sustainable. Solar and wind power, in particular, have seen a rapid growth in recent years, making them key players in this green energy revolution. But as with anything, it's not all sunshine and breezes. These technologies, while revolutionary in their potential to reduce carbon emissions and combat climate change, are composed of a myriad of materials. Metals, glass, composite materials, each with their own benefits and drawbacks. And what happens when these materials have served their purpose? What happens when these solar panels and wind turbines reach the end of their lifespan? That's where the topic of recycling comes into play. A key aspect often overlooked in the discourse around renewable energy sources. As we strive for sustainability, we must also consider the life cycle of the materials that enable this transition. The importance of this cannot be overstated. Because, you see, recycling these materials is not as straightforward as one might hope. There are environmental, technical, and economic challenges that come into play. From the hazardous materials in solar panels to the complex nature of wind turbine blades, from the costs associated with recycling processes to the limited market for recycled materials, the road to sustainable recycling is littered with obstacles. But don't let that discourage you, because where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. Opportunities for innovation, for policy change, and for market development. As these technologies reach the end of their lifespan, the disposal and recycling of their components present significant challenges. And it's these challenges that we'll be exploring in the coming segments. Stay tuned because there's a lot more to learn about the importance of renewable energy sources. Imagine a world where sustainable energy sources become a source of pollution. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. It's a paradox, but one that we face today as we grapple with the environmental challenges of recycling materials used in renewable energy sources, or RES. Solar panels and wind turbines, the cornerstones of renewable energy, are a mixture of various materials. These include metals, glass, and composite materials. Now, some of these materials are not only difficult to recycle, but they're also hazardous. Take solar panels, for instance. They contain toxic heavy metals like lead and cadmium. These are not the kind of elements you want leaching into your soil or water sources. And then there are wind turbine blades. These are made of composite materials that are incredibly resistant to decomposition. What does that mean? Well, they end up accumulating in our landfills, just sitting there for years, decades even, without breaking down. The challenge here is that the very technologies we are relying on to steer us towards a more sustainable future could end up contaminating our environment if we don't handle their disposal correctly. The irony is almost poetic, but it's a reality we need to address. But it's not just about the environmental risks. There's also the matter of recycling these materials. It's not as simple as tossing your soda can into the recycling bin. These technologies are complex. They're designed to be durable, efficient, and withstand the elements. That also makes them difficult to dismantle for recycling, and that's the crux of the issue. We're in a race against time to transition to renewable energy, but the road is not without its bumps. The improper disposal of these components can lead to soil and water contamination, undermining the environmental benefits of renewable energy. So, while we champion the shift towards renewable energy sources, it's important to remember that with every solution comes a new set of challenges. And these challenges, while formidable, are not insurmountable. It's a reminder that our journey to a sustainable future is just that, a journey, and we've got a long road ahead. Have you ever tried to take apart something complex, only to find it's not as easy as it seems? This is the reality we face when dealing with the recycling of renewable energy sources, or RES materials. The technical difficulties associated with this process are indeed a challenge to overcome. Imagine trying to disassemble a solar panel. These panels are engineered masterpieces constructed with tightly bonded materials to ensure they can withstand the elements and remain efficient throughout their lifespan. But this durability and efficiency come at a cost when it's time for recycling. The materials are so tightly bonded that they become difficult to dismantle, making recycling a Herculean task. Picture a layer cake. It's easy to slice into it, but try separating each individual layer and ingredient, and you'll quickly realize how complex the task is. That's the challenge we face with solar panels. They're made up of numerous layers of different materials, including glass, plastic, and various metals, all of which need to be separated for recycling. But the bonds between these layers are so strong that it's almost like trying to unbake that cake. Now let's shift our gaze to wind turbines. These towering giants of renewable energy are not without their own set of recycling challenges. The blades of wind turbines are large and composed of composite materials, a mix of resin and glass or carbon fibers. These materials are resistant to decomposition, and their sheer size makes them difficult to handle. Current recycling processes are not designed to efficiently deal with these materials. Just like the challenges of a jigsaw puzzle, the technical difficulties of recycling RES materials lie in the complex nature of these technologies. It's not simply a matter of breaking things down into smaller pieces. It's about understanding how these pieces fit together, how to separate them, and how to process them in a way that's safe, efficient, and environmentally friendly. This complexity requires specialized recycling technologies which are currently limited in availability and capacity. We are in the early stages of a long journey, and there's no doubt that we have a steep climb ahead. But with continued research and innovation, we can develop solutions that rise to these challenges. What if the cost of doing the right thing outweighs the benefits? This question brings us to the heart of the economic obstacles hampering the recycling of renewable energy source materials. The crux of these economic challenges lies in the costs associated with recycling. These costs aren't just monetary, they also involve time, energy, and resources. To understand this better, let's delve into the recycling process of these materials. It begins with the collection of spent solar panels and wind turbines, a task that isn't as straightforward as it sounds. These devices are often installed in remote locations, making their collection a logistical challenge. Once collected, these materials need to be transported to recycling facilities, further adding to the costs. But the expenses don't end there. The processing of these materials involves disassembling, sorting, and treating them to recover valuable components, a labor-intensive and energy-consuming process. Moreover, the current recycling technologies are not efficient enough to handle these complex materials, necessitating further investment in research and development. The result? The cost of recycling often exceeds the value of the recovered materials, a discouraging reality for those considering venturing into this field. Furthermore, the lack of financial incentives or regulatory mandates adds to the economic hurdles. In the absence of a financial reward or regulatory push, recyclers find little motivation to invest in the necessary technologies and infrastructure to recycle renewable energy source materials. It's a classic case of a chicken and egg scenario. Without a developed market for recycled materials, there's little incentive to invest in recycling processes. But without investment in recycling, the market for recycled materials struggles to grow. This brings us to a sobering conclusion. The market for recycled materials from RES technologies is still developing, further discouraging investment in recycling processes. Without a concerted effort to overcome these economic obstacles, the promise of a sustainable energy future might remain just that, a promise. But where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. And the opportunities for the recycling of renewable energy source materials are vast and largely untapped. Challenges often pave the way for innovation and opportunity. And that is precisely what we are witnessing in the renewable energy sector. Our journey towards a more sustainable future may be fraught with hurdles, but it's these very challenges that spur us on, pushing us to think outside the box and come up with innovative solutions. And when it comes to recycling materials from renewable energy sources, we're starting to see glimmers of hope. Research and development, the lifeblood of any technological advancement, is in full swing to make recycling technologies more efficient and economically viable. Scientists and engineers are exploring new ways to dismantle solar panels and wind turbines to separate and recover the valuable materials they contain. Innovations in chemical processing, for instance, could potentially revolutionize the way we recycle these materials, making the process easier and more cost-effective. But it's not just about improving the technology. We also need to create an environment that encourages and supports these advancements. Regulatory frameworks play a crucial role in this. By setting standards and guidelines for recycling, governments can provide a clear direction for the industry. They can also use these regulations to incentivize recycling, making it a more attractive option for businesses. One such incentive could be financial. By offsetting the costs associated with recycling, governments can tip the economic scales in favor of sustainable practices. This could involve subsidies for recyclers or tax breaks for businesses that choose to recycle their materials. It's about creating a market where recycling is not just an environmental responsibility, but also a smart business decision. And then there's the concept of extending producer responsibility, or EPR. This is a policy approach where manufacturers are held accountable for the end-of-life management of their products. By extending this responsibility, we can encourage manufacturers to design their products with recyclability in mind. After all, if you're going to be responsible for your product's disposal, you'll want to make that process as easy and efficient as possible. EPR policies could also drive the adoption of more recyclable materials and designs. Manufacturers might start using materials that are easier to recycle or design their products in a way that makes them easier to dismantle. This could lead to a significant reduction in waste and a boost in the availability of recycled materials. It's clear that the road to a sustainable future is not a smooth one. There are challenges to overcome, obstacles to navigate. But with every challenge comes an opportunity to innovate, to improve, to make a difference. And when it comes to recycling materials from renewable energy sources, we're starting to seize these opportunities. Extending producer responsibility, EPR policies, can drive the adoption of more recyclable materials and designs. And that's something we can all get behind. After all, sustainability is not just about using renewable energy. It's also about ensuring that we make the most of the materials we use and reduce our impact on the planet. And with the right solutions in place, we can do just that. Challenges are not insurmountable, especially when it comes to ensuring a sustainable future. As we've explored, the recycling of materials from renewable energy sources like solar and wind power is a complex issue. It presents a unique set of environmental, technical and economic challenges. These hurdles, however, are not insurmountable. They are merely invitations for innovation and collaboration. From an environmental standpoint, the disposal of materials from solar panels and wind turbines can pose significant risks. Toxic heavy metals and composite materials resistant to decomposition can contaminate our soil and water. Addressing this challenge requires stringent regulations and improved handling and disposal methods to prevent such contamination. Technically, the complexity of renewable energy technologies makes them difficult to dismantle and recycle. The tight bonding of materials in solar panels and the large size and composite nature of wind turbine blades challenge our current recycling processes. This necessitates the development of specialized recycling technologies that can efficiently handle these materials. Economically, the costs associated with recycling often outweigh the value of the recovered materials. Without financial incentives or regulatory mandates, there's little motivation for recyclers to invest in the necessary technologies and infrastructure. This calls for policy interventions and financial incentives to make recycling not only feasible but also profitable. But it's not all doom and gloom. Solutions are emerging and opportunities abound. Research and development efforts are underway to improve recycling technologies, making them more efficient and economically viable. Innovations in chemical processing could make it easier to separate and recover valuable materials, while regulatory frameworks and financial incentives can encourage the development of recycling infrastructure. Extending producer responsibility policies can drive the adoption of more recyclable materials and designs. In essence, these challenges are catalysts for change, pushing us to innovate, adapt and evolve. As we continue to explore and implement solutions, we inch closer to a future where renewable energy is not just an alternative, but a norm. Addressing the problems associated with recycling RES materials is essential for ensuring that the transition to renewable energy is truly sustainable. It's a journey worth taking for the sake of our planet and future generations.